Actually, Eric, could you go live and then I can start. Yeah, great, thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Immigrant and Refugee Affairs Forum. We hold this meeting every month, first Tuesdays of the month from 3 to 4:30. And we cover different topics and resources that immigrants and refugees can access to, and also immigrant and refugee community leaders and community advocates know about, so they can share and pass on these resource informations. This is also a space that we oftentimes come together to network and discuss issues that might be challenging to immigrants and refugee communities. Um, Please mute yourself if you're not talking, so that way we can hear the speaker. And also for networking purposes, if you could please share your name, title, the agency you're with, and if you're comfortable with the pronouns that you use. Mine is she, her, hers. And also, before we start, I wanted to let you know that we will be holding immigrant advocate meeting next week on the 8th from 2 to 2:45, because there are different legislations going on for both migrant communities and for the Office of New Americans, so, which is the office I lead. And we would like community members, community leaders, and advocates to be part of that conversation and, either get feedback or, give feedback or answer any questions they might have. But we would like to hear from you. So if you're interested in that, attending, please let me know and I'll send you the invite. With that, I'd like to start with our first presenter, and Adesewa Adeseji. She's a workforce strategy consultant here at the Department of Employment and Economic Development, also known as DEED. She will be presenting to us today on, how to attract people of color, or Black, Indigenous, and people of color talent, and what can employers do to retain them. Adesewa, thank you so much for joining us again. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just waiting for my PowerPoint to upload. Let me know once you see it. I've been having some issues, so hopefully it'll show up.
Yes, we see it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you once again, Anissa, for inviting me. Good afternoon, everyone. For those who are unfamiliar and I haven't had the pleasure of talking to or communicating with yet, my name is Adesewa Adeseji. I am with DEED, the Department of Employment and Economic Development, and I am a workforce strategy consultant. So what I do is I work with employers in the Twin Cities metro area with strategizing and developing work solutions for their recruiting and retention needs. So that is helping them from coming up with recommendations and strategies to possibly implement, to attract talent, to connecting them to resources in the area that can be anything from educational institutions to community-based organizations to philanthropic organizations. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. There are a total of 6 of us throughout Minnesota. Once again, I am in the metro area. My counterparts are located in greater Minnesota. So with that, Anissa had asked that I do a condensed presentation of an event that I did earlier February. So one of the things that we do as Workforce Strategy Consultants, we have an event called Workforce Wednesday. And the purpose of those events is to share best practices and strategies that we are hearing from our employers that we work with on different subjects. And so for February, the topic was strategies on engaging with Minnesota's BIPOC workforce. And I do have a link to that video webinar recording as well as a blog at the end of this presentation. So once again, Denise had asked me to do kind of a condensed, shorter version of the presentation. So that is what I am doing. So with that, let's begin. So when I work with employers, one of the things that I like to share is data showing that the face of Minnesota is going to be changing. That's something that's inevitable. That's something that's going to happen. That's something that's unavoidable. And so this information is from the Minnesota State Demographic Center, looking at projected population changes for 2038 to 2048. So this is starting from 2018. So at first, when we looked at 2018 to 2038, as you can clearly see, the populations within the BIPOC communities are expected to increase. You have Black or African American by 74.5%, American Indian or Alaska Native by 13.3%, Asian or other Pacific Islander by 69.3%, two or more races by 58.5%, Hispanic or Latino of any race by 48.8%. So with the new data now looking at from 2018 to 2048, you can clearly see that the numbers have increased for those BIPOC populations. So you have African Americans now at 113.6%, American Indian or Alaska Native at 16.3%, Asian or other Pacific Islander at 105.3%, two or more races at 87.8%, Hispanic or Latino of any race at 71.8%. Now, for the white, non-Hispanic or Latino residents in Minnesota, you can see it both 2038 and 2048, those numbers are actually decreasing. However, we will be able to say that the majority of Minnesota residents will still identify as white, non-Hispanic, or Latino, but we're just going to expect pockets of groups within the BIPOC communities growing, not only in the Twin Cities metro area, but also in greater Minnesota as well. And so this is something that we use for employers to express the importance of reaching out to those BIPOC communities and developing relationships with those communities to find talent for their positions and for their industry. Also, we also need to understand the difference between an employer and an employee market. So the pendulum usually swings back between an employer market and an employee market. Well, what's the difference between the two? An employer market is when the employer has the advantage, when there are more candidates, more available workers than there are actual positions. When it's an employer market, it gives employers the opportunity to be more selective with choosing or offering opportunities for employments to candidates. They can require requirements for positions that they otherwise didn't beforehand. For example, around the 2009, 10, 11 years, when there were more candidates than opportunities, employers were able to say, okay, for an entry-level position, we want someone that has 10 years of experience. Well, of course, if you have 10 years of experience, that's not really would be considered as an entry-level professional. But because there were more individuals looking for employment, employers were able to change their requirements. Well, now we see ourselves in an employee-focused market, which is the opposite. There are more opportunities for employment than there are candidates. What that means now is that now the employee or job seeker has the advantage. They could be more selective, more upfront with what they want. Employers now are finding themselves having to be more competitive with wages, benefits, looking at remote working, work-life balance, other perks to attract talent. What this also is also from this, what employers are recognizing that they need to do is to look at communities and groups that they otherwise overlooked or really didn't consider for potential talent. So that's engaging more with the BIPOC communities as well as other communities that have seen higher than average unemployment, such as individuals with disabilities, veterans, women for some industries like manufacturing, IT, and so forth. So right now we are in an employee focused market. So what's the importance of gauging with the BIPOC workforce? Of course, there's a plethora of reasons for engaging with the BIPOC workforce, but I just listed a few of them. So when we're talking to employers, the importance, increase competitiveness among employers, especially if all the employers are focusing on engaging with BIPOC communities to attract talent. Those employers that are well known are recognizing, we're going to be recognized for actually offering positions and really outreaching and hiring individuals from different BIPOC communities are going to stand out from other employers. Increase productivity with having a uh, um, diverse workplace. You come with, different mindset, different work ethics that could result in increased productivity, increased creativity. Once again, coming from different different groups, different BIPOC communities, having different mindsets. All of those will contribute to the employer's workplace. Strong company reputation. If you're known for engaging with the BIPOC workforce, the immigrant refugee populations in Minnesota, that will spread quickly. And you will have more individuals from those communities and from other communities interested in setting up a relationship with you as an employer. A wide range of experience and skill sets. Once again, with diversity comes a diverse range of experiences, a diverse range of skill sets, all of those which could be beneficial to the employer. Dispelling any negative stereotypes or biases. We know that biases and microaggressions are a barrier when it comes to recruiting from certain groups or populations. Hiring and taking a chance in actually offering positions to these different groups can help dispel the myth of, oh, because this person is from a particular group, this is what their work ethic is. You're going to have more trouble than not. And so, being more diverse when it comes to recruiting can help dispel those myths of and stereotypes and biases. Lastly, diverse employee base increases diverse customer base. So if your consumer, if an employer is a B2C, so a business to a customer business, and those consumers realize that you are serious about diversity, you are your workplace is diverse, you give opportunities from people from different backgrounds within your company, not only in entry level, but also in leadership positions. A lot of consumers are more willing to support a business that supports BIPOC communities and are open to giving opportunities for employment and advancing from individuals from different communities. So your customer base can be determined by your workforce makeup. So engagement, so recruiting with BIPOC workforce. So I usually say that this is more of the external. This is when employers are first trying to attract individuals for their positions. So a couple of things that we recommend to employers. Go to them, don't wait for them to come to you. Once again, this being an employee-focused market, there are more opportunities than there are candidates. So it is detrimental for an employer to sit back and expect candidates to come to you. It doesn't matter how well known you are. It doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter how long you've been in existence. All employers in this particular market need to walk outside of their four walls go outside of their offices and actually engage with the community surrounding them. Be genuine with your desire to build a relationship with the community. People are not dumb, as I like to say, or like I tell employers. Communities will know the difference between an employer that is sincere and genuine and really wants to build a relationship with them versus an employer that's doing it just to check off a box. You know, actions speak louder than words. So if you're going to reach out and engage with those communities, be genuine, be honest, and when you engage with them with a real-time need. Don't engage with them for a need that you're going to have 6 months, a year, 4 years down the line. Engage with them with a need that you have now. Involve current BIPOC staff with development of strategies. That's part of being an inclusive workforce, is to include those individuals that are already part of your workforce, that are from these different communities. Engage. Let their voices be heard on how to recruit more individuals from your communities or from their communities. Participate in social events and celebrations. Once again, it's important for the employer to step outside of their offices and engage with the community. What we tell employers, figure out, are there special events? Are there any organizations that are really engaged with the community? Approach them, and sincerely, of course, and ask them how can they become more involved in the vision, the mission of that organization. Promote using diversity-focused job boards and websites. So beyond using your website, beyond using CareerForce, MN.com, or MinnesotaWorks.com, there are other websites, other organizations that are geared at recruiting individuals from immigrant, refugee, BIPOC communities. So for example, for employers that have more of a high level hiring needs, where there might be advanced education needed, reaching out to the Minnesota chapters of the National Black MBA Association, National Black Hispanic MBA Association, the National Asian MBA Association. There's also diversity groups throughout the metro as well that a lot of job seekers and current employees are engaged in, reaching out and connecting with those resources as well. Once again, developing that relationship so you can recruit and find talent from those groups. Shorten the overall application process. That's really important. Once again, this being an employee-focused market, the days of having a candidate wait 30 days to find out if they're going to be offered employment are long gone. One of the things that we tell employers is it's important to shorten. We would say no more than 2 weeks, and even within those 2 weeks, making sure that you maintain a relationship and communication with that candidate. It goes a long way, and even if you do not end up offering employment to that individual at the end of the 2 weeks, it still works in your favor because they possibly pass along information to the next possible candidate that, you know what, although I didn't get the job, I wasn't offered the employment at that company, I do appreciate the quick response in finding out if I was actually going to be offered that position or not. So shortening that length of time, the candidate experience, as we like to call it, from 30 days, 60 days, to 3 months down to 2 weeks is important. Address biases during the application process. Once again, we tell employers those unconscious biases are very detrimental and are barriers for you finding and offering employment. Recognizing that there are biases that you have. We all have biases, and making sure that those are not influencing your decision to hire individuals from BIPOC communities or immigrants or refugees that are applying and looking for employment. So making sure that you are aware that those biases might creep up during the application process and how to not have that affect your decision-making process. And then once again, frequent employee feedback. This works even for both recruiting and retention, but making sure that you're getting a feel of what is working during the application process, as well as what is working with your employees. Are there issues that are arising? Are employees happy? Currently working for your company? If so, what are the things that make them want to stay? And using that to build new strategies to attract more talent. So that's just some of the things that we talk to employers about when it comes to recruiting BIPOC talent. So now we have the retaining. Once you got them, how do you keep them? So some of the things that we tell employers that is important in order to keep, your BIPOC workforce. Promote a work to live, not live to work environment. This is where the work-life balance comes into play. Make sure that you are supporting that, you encourage that. Life happens. There are circumstances beyond people's controls that would affect their ability to work a certain shift or come in for a couple of days. Be flexible, transparent, and work with that current employee, and that will increase the chances of them staying at that job and you retaining them as an employee. Acknowledge and celebrate cultural differences. Not everyone is going to be cookie cutter. Not everyone is going to celebrate, the same religion, the same political beliefs. Celebrate those differences. With a diverse workforce, you have a diverse opinions, thoughts, mindset, creativity. It comes back to that and the benefits of having of recruiting a BIPOC workforce, or the benefits of having a diverse workforce. Make sure that there's transparency between staff and management and leadership. That is very much important. Staff wants to know that if they have issues or questions, they can talk to management, they can talk to leadership, and management and leadership is not sitting in an ivory tower looking down at the rest of the workforce, and there's no possible way of engaging in conversations with them. So making sure that that transparency, the line of communications are open between staff and management. We also talk to employers about supporting career growth through advancement opportunities. Once again, you got them. How do you keep them? Hiring someone for an entry-level position right now is great, but in 15 years or 20 years, do they still want to be in that position, or do they see themselves climbing within that company? And so sooner or later, there are going to be those employees that say, hey, I've been in this job for years. I know it like the back of my hand. I'm looking for a challenge. I think that I would be good as part of the management in this company. If there aren't opportunities for someone to advance their career, they're going to start looking outside of the company for those opportunities. So once again, if you're wanting to retain your BIPOC workforce, that is one of the things that we recommend, is that you have opportunities for advancement. And we do know that among management and C-suite level positions, the percentage of BIPOC representation is extremely low. So that is an area and an opportunity for employers to retain those employees. Offer the option of remote work if applicable. Right now, that part of the work-life balance. If the job can be done at home for a few days, offer that. One of the challenges that we see with individuals returning to work is the lack of childcare that's available. For a lot of parents, that is the make or break. If the employer is flexible and allows the opportunity for a parent to stay home a couple of days, so they can do the work from home and they don't need to worry about childcare, that's going to increase the possibility of that individual staying with that company, because they might not get that opportunity with another company. Remain competitive with wages, benefits, perks such as health and wellness. We always tell employers, research What are your competitors in your area offering as wages? What are employers in your industry offering as wages? And make sure that you are competitive. For those individuals, maybe those smaller companies that can't compete wage-wise with the larger companies, we always say, okay, are there anything else that you can do to offset that? Offering more vacation days or more perks, or really promoting, working from home, really promoting the health and wellness. What are some other ways that you can remain competitive outside of matching wages with companies in your area or companies within your industry? So, as D Work for Strategy Consultants, we want to promote um, the work being done in this space that's dedicated to diversifying and making, an employer's workforce more inclusive. And so these are some of the objectives when we interact or when we work with employers. We want to highlight employer champions. So those employers that are doing what they need to do and are finding success with recruiting from BIPOC communities, with retaining individuals from BIPOC communities, which are becoming more involved in community engagement. We want to highlight those. We want to make those the employer champions. We want to be able to look at our other employers and say, see, look at this employer in your area that are doing A, B, and C and how it's working for them. And giving those employers some ideas like, yes, if it's working for this employer, it might work for me. So let me start implementing these strategies as well. We assist employers on their journey to becoming more diverse and inclusive. Not everyone, it has started off from the gate fast. There are still some employers that are having issues or questions, or they don't know how to start. And so as Work for Strategy Consultants, that's one of the things that we do. We work with the employers to give them ideas and say, okay, there's nothing wrong with starting slow and moving forward as long as you're moving forward. So that's, our objectives is to make sure that no employer is left behind, and all employers that want assistance with diversifying their workforce and becoming more inclusive, they're getting that assistance from us. Build connections between the workforce ecosystem and employers. So making employers, increasing the knowledge of resources in the area for employers. So that's everything from, once again, community-based organizations, philanthropic organizations, down to local workforce development boards, just acknowledging the existence and what they do, and letting them know that this is a resource for them. That they're not alone in this. If they need us, if they want to work with a community-based organization that work with residents in the community to set up career pathways, these are things that we can assist you, help you make those connections. And then also we want to be considered a tool in your resource toolbox. So our thing is, it's not just a one and done for employers. We are here to assist you as much as possible, as long as possible, as long as you are working towards those goals of becoming more diverse, becoming more inclusive, and reaching out to those BIPOC communities. We also want to share the employers that we work with that are working towards these goals with resources such as yourself. So that goes back to building those connections between the workforce ecosystem and employers. So here's a couple of references for you to look at afterwards. As I mentioned, every first Wednesday of the month, we hold Workforce Wednesday webinars. Our Workforce Wednesday topic, which will actually be tomorrow, will be focusing on engaging with the disability community. So how employers can reach out to those communities, reach out to resources in those communities to attract talent from those communities. April's topic will be on second chance hiring. So reaching out to individuals that have a background in how to have them re-enter or enter the first time into the workforce. We also have a blog which recapped the webinar from February, focusing on engaging with Minnesota's BIPOC workforce. You can also find the videotape recording on the Career Force page as well. Lastly, there is a link to our workforce strategy consultants. You can read more about us, read up on some of the blogs that we have put together to help employers. And if you work with or have any locations outside of the metro area, there is a workforce strategy consultant that you can connect with that will be able to assist you. So with that, I am done. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't take a lot of time, Anissa. If you have any questions, I am open.
Thank you so much, Adesewa. Does anybody have any questions? Please use the hand raise or the chat function. Adesewa, I have a question. I've been asked by community members and I haven't had answer for that. Those employers that are interested in hiring people of color, especially immigrant and refugee talents, are there options for remote work for people who cannot come in person?
Yeah, and I think it depends on the industry and the position as well. So, for example, if you're looking for an office position, a corporate position where you're behind a computer, those those are most likely will have the opportunities of working remotely from home. Versus if you are looking for an assembler position, a manufacturing position where you actually have to be working at the location. Those are not going to be there's not going to be an option to work remote from home. So there are those possibilities out there. It just depends on the position and just the industry that it's in. So I think in addition to office positions, IT, there's a higher chance of finding a position that you can work remotely from home. Like I said, a lot of the packaging, manufacturing, of course, healthcare is going to be more of on-site.
That makes sense. Thank you. I see Z Nagberry's hand is up. Go ahead, Z.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you, Honorable Commissioner. My question is, I know there's a program through the state for training of immigrants to get their CNA and PCA skills. Is there a similar program for people that want to learn skills trade? Like people want to learn forklift driving. If we can get that for immigrants, they will get better paying job. And I know some of them also would love to go into CDL. Is there a program that the state assists immigrants to do trainings like that?
There are, I know that there are some community-based organizations that offer those trainings. More employers are offering on-the-job training for those type of positions as well. I would say at a state level, that's where like a lot of the Minnesota Job Skill Partnership grants come into play. An employer can work with a community-based organization to develop a career pathway into those positions. But I don't believe there is a program just focusing on that. I mean, I can look into that and then maybe follow up with you, Anissa.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
I also thank you, Adesewa. I was going to add Z to your question, or rather the answer. There are apprenticeship programs that are available through Department of Labor and Industry. So if anybody's interested in, we can connect them, and it depends on what industry the individual or the people that you have contact with are interested in being trained in. There are manufacturing, there are the healthcare, automotive, and just different industries that people can be trained in, and they can get paid while on the job training that will get them certified. So let me know, and then we can follow up. I see that Ase had asked question. Thank you for very valuable information, Adesewa. Wondering if, because the market is currently employee focused, how open are employers to sponsorship candidates? I work with many dynamic talent who hold work visas and need to find employers. Could you say more about that, Adesewa?
Yeah, so there has been more employers that have been interested in learning more about the H-1B, H-2B visas, because they're recognizing, for the type of work that they're doing, I believe it's the H-2B visas, they are able to get workers from outside the country, if only temporary. So there are more employers that are interested and want to know more information about it. There's not a landslide of employers saying yes that we want to do that, but there is more interest in it.
Thank you. I see also Enoch had his hand up. Enoch, go ahead.
Yeah, just to answer that gentleman's question, yes, we do actually, through the adult career pathways, we do have service providers that do provide a variety of trainings, including forklift, including a pathway to apprenticeships in trade. That one I know of mind. Eastside Neighborhood Services has a good program, and what they do, they prepare you to be absorbed in the skills trade, because the skills trade is a bit picky, but they prepare you and give you the facilities and the qualities they are looking in our candidates to take within the skills trade. So yes, did have some of those programs probably, and so I could just maybe as my homework come up with a list and for which organizations are providing which services such that we can help the community, you see, tap into those. And usually whenever did announces a program that has been awarded grants, they normally put a bulletin out that includes some bites, but yes, we can get some information and probably see how to pass it over to.
Great.
Thank you. I actually
Yeah.
was thinking when I was mentioning the community-based organization, that was the East Side. Yeah, and I know that I have referred a couple of employers that are looking for individuals and forklift. So Anissa, we can talk offline, and I can maybe do a introduction.
Great.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. And I see Sarah Johnson put it in the chat box that the current organization of Minnesota will be offering warehouse forklift this summer, targeted at immigrant and English learners. And it looks like something that the community members can access. Sarah, if you could include the information, the point of contact, it would be nice. Otherwise, okay, so it has to be scheduled through CareerForce, or people can reach out to you directly. If so, could you share the point of contact for that program? And also, I see that Emma Kasiga said there's one training currently by Minnesota Department of Training, Department of Transportation, and DEED partnership looks like for highway heavy construction training and job placement. So a lot of good stuff are happening that the community members can participate in. And Karen Berg also said that an employer that sincerely hires and retains Black, Indigenous, and people of color staff is BIX, BIX in Little Canada. No work from home. They produce cutting and packaging work and maintenance, forklift, warehouse, etc. And she shared the link in there too. Great. Thank you so much, Adesewa. This was very productive discussion.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. So yeah, like I said, if there are any other questions, Anissa, unfortunately I do have to jump off, but we can connect and get those resources out to your audience. So thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right, so next we have, we're going to be discussing about transportation services for immigrants and refugees, but particularly for Afghan evacuees. We have Yumi Nagaoka, who is with Metropolitan Council, and she's the outreach coordinator. She'll be presenting for us today. Yumi, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. All right, let's see if I can share my presentation. Maybe not. All right, can we see that yet?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Yumi Nagaoka, and I'm currently serving as the Acting Supervisor of Public Involvement for Metro Transit, which basically means I currently oversee our outreach and engagement team. A couple of years ago, we had some change. So some folks on this call might have had some contact with our former customer advocates who are now kind of absorbed into the community outreach team. And one of the roles that kind of carried on over with the customer advocate work is how to ride presentations. And these are basically presentations that can be tailored to really any group for whatever their needs may be. Oftentimes they're kind of presented in a classroom style where we can either present virtually or in person. We can bring a PowerPoint or any other visuals that may be helpful. We can also provide kind of more of that one-on-one support as well. This is most often used with a lot of folks with disabilities, for example, who might not be comfortable, kind of like to have us come out, or even, groups. We can take them and kind of plan a trip, starting from kind of a local location, maybe going from bus to train to bus, but really we can plan it however your folks need it. And this is kind of a list of some previous groups that we have presented and worked with. There's hundreds and hundreds of them, but this is just kind of a key group that kind of came to mind right away. And so you can see that there's quite a variety of folks and again, of needs. And we do have experience working with lots of different groups where English is their second language, or they have very minimal English knowledge. And so in our presentations, if we do kind of that classroom style, we do tend to use a lot of visuals. So here's kind of an example of a slide. So it's, to kind of try to get the point across. Unfortunately, as outreach coordinators, we don't have direct access to interpreters, but if somebody has one on staff, for example, at an organization, they're more than welcome to join and interpret as we kind of go. Let's see. Here's another example, but specifically for our new neighbors here, for those that may be more adventurous and kind of want to start riding the bus right away or using our service, this is a feature that not a lot of folks know about. It's called Language Line. And it's a service that can be used over the phone when calling Metro Transit. So that 612 number right there is kind of our main phone number. And then there's kind of a list of options being, planning a trip, customer service, lost and found, different options like that. But when they talk to a live person, all they simply need to do is say what language they speak, and they have to say it the English version. So I always kind of give the example of, Spanish versus saying Espanol. So you do have to say Spanish. And then we can get an interpreter on the line. And we have access to over 170 different languages. And so we have yet to come across a language that we don't have access to an interpreter for. So that's something I feel that's really, really important, because again, there are folks out there who might be more comfortable communicating in their native language, especially with something like transportation, which can really be kind of scary and daunting to folks. So definitely want to make sure that that word is out, that that's available for anybody to use. The other kind of program that we have that's not necessarily specifically for our evacuees and refugees and whatnot, but really just anybody who kind of falls into what's considered like the lower income bracket. It's called the TAP program, or TAP PASS, so Transit Assistance Program. And what it offers is the rider gets a special kind of card where every time they use it to ride the bus or the train, it only subtracts $1 for their ride instead of the standard, $2, $2.50, or $3.25. So it's quite a savings, especially, for folks who are coming who might not have as much. And Andrea Keepy, who is one of my colleagues who actually manages this program, she's been in communications with a lot of resettlement agencies and a lot of folks kind of around the Twin Cities to put together different, like a list of certification documents. And this can be something as simple as, an EBT card, a community card that's shown, but there's quite a bit more. Here are some more examples, but she's trying to work towards kind of a universal document that shows somebody as being refugee status that would qualify from them for that kind of lower income bracket. And this again, so it'd be kind of just a blanket certification. And in doing this, she's also looking for partners, meaning organizations can sign up and they can actually sign up their own clients to have this special card. It's very minimal training. All they need to do is basically just, confirm that, this client, they fall into this bracket, certified, and then give them the card and they're good to go for the year. And so we find that a lot of times, folks are more comfortable going to people that they're already familiar with, going to folks that they're already, getting other types of service and assistance from, as opposed to kind of being set out and contacting, Metro Transit themselves, which they're more than welcome to. But again, sometimes they're more comfortable doing it with people that they're already familiar with. And then lastly, here's just kind of some phone numbers for your own reference. Nothing too groundbreaking, but again, just to have on hand if you wanted to share with folks. We are slowly expanding into the 21st century, and we're getting into texting, because again, some folks might be more comfortable texting. That unfortunately is only available in English, but again, on the left hand side, all of those phone numbers, once you call that main number, it will you can ask for a interpreter in your language, and then they can help you out with that. So that's kind of all that I have. I'll put my contact information in the chat. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yumi. I do see that Sarah had shared some of the information on pertaining to interpreting training. We will include that in our blog so people have access to the information. But I wanted to see if anybody had questions or comments or feedback on Yumi's presentation. Going on the next 3 seconds. If not, we'll move on. Otherwise, you can always use the chat function to share your comments, questions Yumi, thank you so much. I appreciate your efforts and making time for us today to present and share the resources.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to now to community updates. And we have Margaret Odanga, who is the Employment and Training Program Equity Communication Lead and Trade Adjustment Assistance Program Specialist. Margaret is with DEED, and she wears a lot of hats. So she's here to teach us and tell us about the Trade Adjustment Assistance Program. I know I'm part of DEED and I wasn't familiar with that program. So Margaret, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm sure a lot of immigrants and refugees and advocates and community leaders are interested in learning about this program. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, AC Anissa, for the introduction and the opportunity to present our program in this forum. So TA team consists of about 14 employees. We do have 2 senior specialists and a supervisor, Sarah Saito, and our director is Nancy Omondi. So this afternoon, Sarah Saito is in attendance. And Sarah, would you just like to say something real quick?
Sure. Thank you, Meg. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. It's really exciting to be networking and learning from each other. So thank you again for everyone's work. And Meg, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So what is Trade Adjustment Assistance, TAA? So TAA is a federal program available to workers who have lost their jobs or whose hours are reduced due to foreign competition. So if there is a chance that your workers are going to lose their jobs or have lost their jobs due to foreign competition, we file a petition with the United States Department of Labor, and they will investigate the situation. If the Department of Labor determines that people are losing or lost their jobs because the job moved out of the US, or because there is a competition causing the company to lay off, then the petition gets certified. So once the petition is certified, we get notification from Department of Labor, and then our office will mail eligibility letter to you. It documents that you are eligible for the TA program. Remember this is a federal program, so you potentially can access the benefit even if you move to another state. So what are the benefits? So first of all, we talk about the most generous benefit training. We call our benefit Cadillac because they are just too good to be true. So we have credential training. So once you're certified that you lost your job due to foreign trade impact, you can access our benefit. You can do training through us. The credential training is for people who can't find employment in their current field and need training to get into a new or different industry, or for those who need to upgrade or additional certificate to make them more competitive in workforce. So once you determine that you want to go for school, you lost your job, but you want to go to school and you qualify to be TA customer, TA will fund your training 100%. We will pay for your tuition, we will pay for your fee. If you need books, we will pay for that. If there is parking passes that is needed at school, we will pay those. Any required items or tools, we will pay. If you need computer, TA will buy computer and any software that is required. If you are driving from your home to school more than 15 miles one way, TA will reimburse you for mileage. So that is, so a person can attend training part-time or full-time. Perhaps someone is working. If they feel confident that they can balance work and school, TA can pay for training. So we do have short-term training and long-term training. So if you want to get something like certified nursing assistant or commercial driver's license, those are some of the ones that we call short-term training. We can still fund that to you. Or if you want to go for long-term training, maybe you need a diploma, master's, associate, bachelor. Generally, we encourage people to consider their current level of education. So you try to achieve the next level of education. So for instance, if you have a high school diploma, we would encourage you to get a diploma or associate. And this training can be online, they can be in classroom, or you can combine both. So those are the credential training. We also do have employer-based training, and that is the famous OJT, on the job training. And this is for an option for people looking to get back to work without attending classroom or online training. Employer-based training is when you receive training from the employer while you also work. So OJT is where customer learns skills and can earn wage at the same time. So employer and TA will identify the skill gap using customer's resume and position description for new job. TA and employer will then enter into a contract that outlines the required training. So TA will pay up to 50% of the hourly wage during the OJT. For instance, if the hourly wage of a position is $40, and TA will pay 50%, which is $20 per hour to the employer. TA will also reimburse you if you are traveling 15 miles one way to the employer. So it's good to brag a little bit that our TA is ranked number 2 national for having the highest amount of on-the-job training contracts. We were highlighted in national webinar about sharing OJT best practice last year. So another employer-based training is apprenticeship. And this is another option for people who want to work while receiving training. An apprenticeship combines classroom instruction with employment. We often think of typical apprenticeship in the trade, like electrician, plumber, etc., but there are hundreds of fields that offers apprenticeship, such as manufacturers, construction, utility, service industry. So TA can pay for registration, tools, uniforms, and equipment if you're going for apprenticeship. And we can also pay you back the mileage if you're traveling more than 15 miles one way to employer. If you have any union dues, TA can pay for those. We do have TRA called, which is Trade Adjustment Allowance. This is available for the people who are going to enroll in school full-time, and it is similar to unemployment insurance. So you earn that while you're going to school. And we have another benefit called Job Search Allowance, and is for anyone traveling to an interview that is 15 miles or more from your home. TA will pay 90% of your travel, lodging, meals, up to $1,250. And we have Relocation Allowance. The benefit in Relocation Allowance is kind of similar to Job Search Allowance. Let's say you go in an interview and then you get the job. Now you need to decide if you're going to move closer to your new job. TA will give you an initial lump sum of $1,250. And then after giving you that money, they will also pay 90% of your moving expenses. So traveling, lodging, meals, we pay at 90%. Our last benefit is called Reemployment Wage Subsidy. And this is for it's great for people who want to work but are having a hard time finding employment close to the wage they previously made. Reemployment wage subsidy is a 50% wage supplement available to workers who are 50 years of age or older if you have a new job that pays less than the trade impacted position. So let's give you an example of you were working and your job was paying you $20, and then due to trade impact, you lost your job, and now you find a new job that is going to pay you $15. So there is that difference of $5. So TA will come in and will pay 50% of that $5. So $2.50 per hour will come from us, TAA. So TAA is currently serving some immigrants and refugee population. Since January 1, 2018, there have been 134 individuals with TAA activities served. Those are the people who have indicated their status as an immigrant or refugee. TAA has also served 120 individuals who indicated primary language other than English. Please note that the number that we are quoting are only for those who indicated their primary language. The number could be more than what we are quoting here. And what is TA doing to better serve the immigrant and refugee population? So TA understands the importance of diversity and inclusion. TA also understands the difficulties an individual or a group may face during communication due to language barrier. As a result, TA has translated some of the materials into different languages. We currently have Somali, Swahili, Spanish, and Hmong. TA also has made sure that covers of those brochures reflect the culture of language that has been translated. So if I'm sending you a brochure that is translated in Somali, expect to see somebody that speaks that language on the cover. TAA has also tried to bridge the language barrier by employing bilingual specialists, and we also use language line as needed. So if we get a customer that speaks a certain language, then we just call language line for interpretation. We have our contact information that we will put in the chat. And I just wanted to give a success story here. And I am myself an immigrant, and just one of our community picnic event, I was talking to some friends, and a friend told me that they lost a job. They lost their job. And being that I work with TAA, I started asking questions. And so she told me, yes, I lost my job. I took the company name, and you know, I took this to my supervisor, and then we filed a petition with the Department of Labor. And so after a few weeks, we received the feedback that they lost their job due to foreign trade impact. And so that person is now enrolled in our program, is doing nursing, and will be graduating in the summer, and we are paying everything 100%. So please, leaders, help us reach out to immigrant and refugee population. If you hear that somebody has been laid off, just send the person to us. We will work with the company to determine if the layoff was due to foreign trade impact. Thank you very much again, Assistant Commissioner Anissa, for giving us the opportunity to present in this platform. If you have any question, we are ready for you.
Thank you so much, Margaret. This was really very helpful and very informative. I've got a couple questions while others are taking a moment to think about their questions. First one is, are you planning to have more language available to people, since we see a lot of challenge in this area? There's Vietnamese, there's Amharic, there's Oromo, there's Karen. So, and now, of course, with the Afghan community members, we've got Dari and Pashto, we've got Hindi. Do you plan on expanding the number of languages you'll have materials be translated into? And my second question is, do you have people who are vetting the translated materials? Many times we have seen when materials are translated into a language, the language, the people that are designed for those materials would rather prefer to be read it for in English instead of their respective language. And I'm wondering if there is a, or if you have heard any challenge regarding that. We certainly have seen it, and I see other community advocates hearing that when things are translated into a certain language, then the readers are often finding very difficult to really understand the meaning. And often the translation happens to be in verbatim. And we know, for example, in Somali or Swahili, verbatim won't work out from English to Somali or Swahili or another language. So I'm wondering if you could shed some light on that.
Sure. I have my supervisor, Sarah. Would you like to say something about that?
Sure, certainly. So to the first point about doing other languages or materials in other languages, we're absolutely open to it. Meg and Thomas, our performance person, have done a lot of research on the languages in each county in Minnesota. So we have that data, as well as working with labor market information to figure out if we have a large layoff in a certain county or a certain region, are we addressing the needs of that population? And then we could quickly get materials translated in appropriate languages. And then to the second question, I agree that is, you know, a literal translation does not work at all, and it can actually be pretty humorous sometimes. So we have community reviewers as part of the bid. When they do the translation, we include the cost of having community reviewers look at the materials to make sure it makes sense to someone who's reading it in their first language or in the primary language. We also are intentional about having staff who speak other languages so they can review material to see, yeah, this isn't quite capturing the right information, or here's a better way to describe it. Thanks for those questions. Great points.
Thank you so much. And there is a data and language demographic data, language and demographic information that had been put together by the New American Economy for our state. So it's now on the page for the Immigrant and Refugee Affairs on Deed, but I'll share a copy with you. So it breaks down to the regions in Minnesota and what languages are spoken per the populations that live there. Thank you. And I see Sarah had asked, do you know if there are any community agencies who have been helping people apply TAA / educating people about TAA program?
Sarah, I'll do my best. I'm not 100% sure I'm understanding your question, but in order for a person in Minnesota to access the TAA benefits, they do need to enroll in our dislocated worker program. And so those providers are around the state. And so that person or the dislocated worker counselor working with the person who's been laid off, they would have a local person who, of course, not during COVID time, would be their face-to-face contact to meet with them and help them develop an employment plan and education plan. And then that person would help the customer submit the paperwork to our staff for us to process the paperwork. So we definitely do a lot of technical assistance with those dislocated worker counselors and partner with them when they have a layoff in their area.
So in terms of the education and also the outreach, are there local agencies that have been granted to carry out TAA programs and services to community members, or it's if somebody needs help, instead of going through a local agency that might be or not one of our grantees, would they then call a person directly at Deed or through the career force locations? Who the person that they're contacting, who is that person with? Is it with Deed or with local agency?
Mm-hmm. Great question. They could do any of the above. Ultimately, the inquiry is going to come to our staff. And so we do have a general email address and a general phone line that we can answer questions for customers who have been laid off or are going to be laid off, or those agencies who are providing the dislocated worker services. We can answer their questions. And a lot of the petitions that we file come from those dislocated worker providers or the grantees who say, hey, this customer was in my office today. He said he got laid off and he had been to XYZ country training someone to do his job. Is this certified? So then we can start that investigation and potentially submit a petition.
Great, thank you so much. I had shared in the past that there are forums held by Minneapolis and St. Paul Immigrant and Refugee Affairs offices led by Michelle Rivero with Minneapolis and Edmundo Lijo with St. Paul office. I'm not sure if they're on here today, but it would be nice to also have you, Sarah, and Meg to present their forums too, because a lot of people who may not attend here will attend there, and the more information that we can share with everybody, the more we can spread the word and people can know about so they can apply these benefits.
Definitely, that would be an honor. The more we can get the word out, the better. We want to help as many people as possible.
Thank you so much. Looks like that's all we had today. Usually we cover the forum from 3 to 4:30, but lately we had been having shorter forums, but I like to give it back 19 minutes of your time. Thank you so much for presenting and thank you so much for attending. It's really very useful to have this information. We will be sharing the blog a few days from now, and usually we share it through the social media, Deed's account, my accounts, and also if you have any information in regards to communities that need, you know, help or assistance, and you have a way of sharing that information, please reach out, and I'd be happy to connect you with my counterparts in the cities and also local agencies that can spread the word and connect you to different immigrant and refugee communities. So thank you so much and have a blessed evening.